Do you remember what is now been known to me as Mr. Shh, I'm coming back? The man in the window who I went to go get my report card.
Oh, the
Grenada,
thief.
The thief
Oh,
who was in the
Lord
window.
have mercy.
And he had, what did he have? He had the cutlass, right?
I don't know, because you saw him. We didn't see him. We were in the kitchen.
So he had the cutlass, right? And he was...
Oh, he had a cutlass too?
Yes. Now the thing, right? And it was, and he jumped out the window, and he saw me. He goes, "Shh, I'm coming back." And then he jumped out the window, and he got on his way.
And he took Don Miko's that violin too, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he took grandma's jewelry and a couple other things, you know.
Oh God!
Yeah. And then we called the police, and they came an hour later, and they shined a few flashlights around, and then they went on their way.
Oh boy, I didn't remember that.
The whole thing is burnt in here.
Really?
Yeah. So it's burnt in here. I'm like, that's okay.
I don't even remember police.
There's a lot of Grenada experiences that are
I remember. You said he told you, "Shh, I'm coming back."
I'm coming back.
Or something.
And I remember I was describing it because I was like, yeah, he had a cutlass, you know, and everyone's like, a cutlass, as in like the swords that a pirate uses.
A machete.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I never had anyone explain that difference in context. So to me, a machete, the shape of the look of a machete in your hand, and the old type of thing, the cutlass, right? Like the actual historic thing, it's one and the same word.
Well, to me, it's one and the same thing. Pretty much.
It turns out that they're uniquely labeled, and you call a machete, and you call a cutlass. And when you communicate that point, everyone goes like, he had a curved blade that a pirate would use on the high seas, and it's like, no, he had a thing that you used to cut sugarcane, and they're like, oh, a machete. It's like, yeah, he had a machete. You know, but like in my brain, I was just like, a cutlass. That's what everyone calls it.
Right,
you know, and that was never going to be corrected because you don't tend to see people walking down the street with a machete in Canada, you know, but you would see that in the islands as people go to work.
Yeah, and then, you know,
so that context never quite gets updated for any reason.
Yes, it's a normal thing to see somebody in the street with a cutlass walking because they go into their land or they just go in and
whatever, you know,
get feed or cut vine for their rabbit or, you know, there's always a reason why.
For mongoose.
Yeah, and more than likely, you have to probably pass in some kind of bush. So if you had to pass bush and make a shortcut, you need to have something in your hand to make your way, you know, to cut bush and whatnot. So there's nothing unusual.
So that then got updated to be the Machete Man when I told that story. It was so ridiculous, but it was like that, you know. I'm like, yep, I remember the look. I remember he had no shirt. Remember he jumped out, you know. I remember we called the police. And when
I came in the room, there was a smell. There was an odor.
Yeah, the window was wide open, you know.
But there was an odor in the room.
And I just was like, Ma! You know. And then I was also like, how did he jump out from that high up?
No, because
there was a landing.
Yeah, so that is where the laundry room is now.
But he still had to jump off of that landing down
exactly.
onto the concrete below. Yeah. So he jumped a story down. It was, you know, like...
Almost, pretty much,
you know, I mean,
it's at least like 8 feet, but 10 feet.
You know, people, they're climbing the mango trees and stuff
that's
anyway,
nothing, exactly.
You know.
Yeah, so that over that landing there, that area, so that's where the laundry room is now.
Okay.
So we have the washer, the dryer, and some cupboards and stuff. And then we have the back step. So we have a back step to exit, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so language is interesting, as is Grenada. But this, we you know, it's something I feel like from time to time I feel like you kind of ask about like what this thing is, this internet thing that I do, and how it works and what's going on. And, you know, I like podcasting. Like, this is basically just an internet radio show. It's the same as all of that. And sometimes there's videos and all that.
Yeah, because I want to know what you're doing. I want to take an interest in what you're doing.
No, for sure. I'm just going in the direction of like obviously this couldn't have been what you thought was coming from like our childhoods, you know, like some like professional video game stuff. But
no, but you see too, because I have a very open mind about that, because one thing I do not like, and it just bothers me so much when parents try to force children to go into professions that they don't like or they don't want or they don't care about. With the exception, if the family has a business, then I can understand where the parents will want the children to take over, and so you're more into the business administration, Okay, I can understand a parent having that wish. But outside of that, it's the same thing with mommy and daddy. They never, at any time do I recall, telling any of us, John, Myrna, or myself, that, you know, we have to do this profession, we have to go into that area. We were left to choose what we wanted. And the amazing thing is that but you know, where I come from, Grenada, you know, by the time you graduate high school, you know exactly what you want to do. I mean, if you don't know what you want to do, that's maybe you come from Mars, you know.
Well,
you know exactly what field of vocation you want, what career you're going to take, etc., etc. And we didn't have no group or job fair and career fair and all of that sort of stuff. But you knew what area, you know, that you wanted to pursue. So for me, when I came here, 21, and you're talking to people my age, and some of them in CJEP and, you know, in college, first year, second year, and they don't know what they want to do.
Well, okay, hold on.
Up to now, I still can't get over that.
Well, that is serious. That is, the context is very different now. First of all, I was going to say, back then, it's like, so that's your take on it. Meanwhile, Dad used to be like, doctor or lawyer, pick one.
Oh,
you know?
He said it?
Yeah.
How come I don't remember that?
We've told you. Both of we used to tell you. He'd be like, "Yep, pick one of those two," and I'd be like, yeah, well, sure thing. We'll get around to that." You know.
But I guess we didn't have that conversation too often, because him and I don't even recall him talk about that.
It came up, you know. And in addition to like my look being a phase and all that funny stuff. But regardless, there's very like different circumstances for kids that are growing up and having what you're exposed to these days. It's very common for people to not be sure what they want to do because
we don't have too much choice. That is the problem.
We don't have too much.
We don't have too much choice.
We have, you see.
Yeah.
Oh. We have too much choice. That's the problem.
Seriously, you know, because you have life on a silver platter. So, you know, you never had to struggle for anything or whatever. You know, you never had to get up early in the morning and go and milk cow and go and, you know, graze goat, take out the goat and all of that sort of stuff. Y'all never had to do that. Go get water.
That type of
Y'all never had to do that kind of stuff.
But that doesn't also mean that just because you do that, you're not going to know, oh, I want to be a farmer, right? It depends on whether you can find passion somewhere. Not everybody finds a moment of passion. Not everybody is encouraged to like try out a lot of different things, right? Some people have childhoods where they don't try out a lot of different things. We got to, thankfully, and that was really cool because,
well, again, at home, you know, everything is education.
Yeah.
So you had education ponging down your head.
Yeah, from I did flute for a minute. I did piano for a minute. We were doing drawing, we were doing acting, we were doing all these different things.
The flute and,
and art. And we got to try out a lot of different things and try to figure out what we liked, but like not everybody gets necessarily those options now. Like,
that's true.
School will give you like an introduction to a lot of subjects, but the way things go in general, like it's there is and the word I suppose would be an ennui that kind of falls over the younger generations, and certainly at least the time I came from, where I have a lot of friends that didn't know what they necessarily wanted to do, because like you're not always going to be called to something. You're not always going to immediately find a spark. You kind of just know that you've been pushed out into the world, and you know, like it's going to be, you also have to kind of make ends meet immediately, which everyone does, but of course it's way harder to get to a place of like, you know, the house and the car and the cars and the picket fence and the, you know, all of that stuff gets harder and harder and further as like the economy gets more busted up, for example. So you're going to find you're going to find that there's a lot of people that are just kind of like, look, I just have to pay for my rent. My rent's going to get more expensive. I'm just going to get a job around the corner. I'm going to start doing what I do. And then maybe while I'm working there, something.
It's a kind of hit and miss thing, because.
But it's a very normal thing for people to just be like, I'm in the deep end. I just have to learn how to tread water right now. Right. And you're like, I don't have time to think about or figure out what I want to do, because I'm just treading water. I'm just trying to pay rent. I'm just trying to get past these loans that never go away, that are going to be here until, like, even if I go bankrupt, they never, ever, ever go away under any circumstances. And I'm trying to, you know, and it's just like there's a lot of people that are just, you know, like they just are never like, it's never been like a moment where you can just breathe and be like, okay, hold on, stop. What do I want out of this? You know, not everyone gets that opportunity. Yeah. So I hear you, but times change, things are different. And there's a reason why when something is happening across an entire generation, like it's not for no reason. There's a whole lot of people that are all like trying to figure out what's going on with this. And you know.
like for example, you know, you remember little Cedric at church? No?
Sure.
Oh, boy. He was a terror, not kidding you. Boy, that kid was something else. And now, he reminded me of you. He's so calm.
Okay.
He is so quiet, well-spoken. He doesn't say much, but just like you, when he opened his mouth, boy, good stuff. You know, I like listening to him. I talk to him all the time, you know, and find out how he's doing in school. And his words are few, but very potent. I mean, he really, really, you could see he's somebody who thinks a lot, you know. And I tell you, it's just you know, you have the ugly duckling turn into a swan, and that's how I have to talk about him. Seriously, he was lazy growing up. I mean, he was all over the church, terror, noise, whatever. And now it's like night and day.
Sure.
And he's taller than me now, you know. And so I just try to encourage them and whatnot. But he too is one that telling me he don't know. So up to this week, I had to kind of like hold myself back and try and not to be too...
It's a different circumstance.
Yeah. I said, well, you know, I guess in time they have career fairs and whatnot, and you can...
Nothing I could have told you that I was interested in doing at the time would have been a real answer, because what I ended up doing did not exist.
Right, yeah.
I ended up doing a thing that did not exist at the time that I was supposed to make that decision, right? That's not going to change. That's continuing.
Well, at least you did the graphic arts.
I did, right?
Yeah.
I did go and I did get my illustration and my art degree and all that. But then in the end, it didn't actually be the path, you know? So you can't predict the future as well. And when there's also like, you know, stuff shifts, there's new jobs, new types of ideas.
Oh my gosh.
And, you know, so you're also keeping up with an ongoing flow, and you're trying to figure out how to innovate in some way. So,
yes.
You know,
you have to be so creative though and innovative, to figure out how
in some way to get to land the job.
And just to get by, you know.
So it's understandable, I think. I have some empathy for people that are like, yeah, I'm not too sure, because you really like it, you know, yes you have a lot of choices, but at the same time, like you have to be kind of like given the introduction, given the opportunity, or at least the you need to be, I think, like taught to know how to search, to know how to look, you know. And if you're never taught that as a skill, like or as a beneficial just habit to have when you're like testing out the waters and things, you're not going to necessarily make mental notes when you're like, oh, that was an interesting thing. I enjoyed that. Maybe I should go check that out down the line.
And sometimes, people get lucky breaks.
Yeah.
You could just be there minding your own business, and then somebody just call upon you to do something.
Yeah.
And then you end up trying to, and you do this, and they're so happy with it, and then they keep asking you to do this, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have a business, Like, for example, there's a commercial on TV right now where this child is autistic, and, autistic kids tend to be hyper and whatnot. And the mother was saying when she used lavender products, the smell of it, the aroma, it seems to calm him down. So they started using it a lot. And next thing you know, they have a business, she and her husband now.
Sure.
They have a business out there with lavender products. And here I don't even know if it's probably here in Quebec, but there's a big, I'm kind of thinking to visit them, but there's a big lavender farm here outside of Montreal. And everything is lavender, this and lavender, that. And they have a boutique actually in Carrefour Laval, And so it's just like stuff like that, if you just get a lucky break, just by the way.
There's a saying that goes, success is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Right? So if you
sometimes not even preparation.
But for example, if you're someone that does prepare for something and then you finally get a shot and then you excel at it because you've been preparing for it, then you're going to be successful at it. Which again, it's an idiom, but it has some relevance in some contexts. But like I said, like in this particular case, what I ended up doing just literally was not a thing. It didn't exist. And to be honest, like, it still is, and because it didn't exist, it also means that you're like, when you start doing it, you're blindly stumbling in the dark as to like what works, what doesn't work, and how to be successful. Now at this point, like, there's examples of it that like people can look at and go like, oh yeah, there's other people that do this internet thing. But certainly like 10 years ago, I mean, it was a different landscape from the way it is now. So
as they say, necessity is a mother of invention.
Sure.
You find yourself in a situation where you have to improvise or do something, and then all of a sudden you have to become creative, and then the next thing you know, well, hey, this look like it will work, and people show interest, and you plunge into it with faith and hoping and trusting that it will work out, and many a times it does, sometimes it doesn't.
The role that games played in my childhood, and the way you felt about certain types of games and certain types of things.
You're talking about video games?
And the stuff that was shall we say not the stuff that you would look at and be like, this is too much devil in this thing, or you know what I mean?
Or the violence. There's always most of the video games that y'all used to do back then. They were very violent.
There was some stuff that you would say like, that's a devil game. None of that. Don't play that. You can't none of that in the house. And there was some times where even I remember one time I was playing this game, Majora's Mask, and there's the sound of a baby crying in the background, and it was a problem in the game you had to solve. I remember, but like it was a background noise. But you walked by while we were playing, or while I was playing, and you said the reason why they put that in the game is because they wanted to desensitize you to the sound of babies crying. Because if you hear that sound in real life, then you're not going to keep playing the game. Or something like that. It was like you were just like, they put that in there to desensitize you, so that you keep playing the game.
Oh boy!
I was like, what is she talking about? But it was one of those. But there was a very antagonistic relationship I felt that you would have with games at some times.
Well, because it's overstimulate your brain, and it bring you into places where, I don't know, it's more leaning down a kind of dark path, and as I said, the violence and all of that. I just wasn't into that.
I understand it when it's not to your taste, certainly. But it also had there was few moments, and I say few because I remember them very strongly and vividly, when you loved a particular game. And there's two in particular that came to mind, one more than others. The one, you can guess which one.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Track
the
and
name.
Field 2.
Yes.
Track and Field 2 was your game on Nintendo. That was, you were all about it. You loved the sports in that. There was the racing, the hurdles, the the fencing, all the different sports in that game. You were super into. But the other one, and it was more like it just caught your eye when I rented it one day, but I rented a game called Yoshi's Island, and it was a Mario game where it was just very like bright and colorful.
The Mario games are okay too.
Yeah, in this particular case, it was like a Mario game, but like it would look like it was like drawn like almost like a kid's drawing.
Okay,
and it was like very like cheerful. And I remember you like stopped what you were doing and you came and sat down and watched, and then you wanted to play for a bit.
Okay.
And that was like the only other time where you're like, I'm interested in this game. And again, it's such a small moment, you know what I mean? Completely fleeting. Like there's no reason for that to stand out in any way for you. But it's like, to me, I was like, those are the only two times where you're like, hey, okay, video games, sure.
Yeah, well, as I said, because most of the time what I saw you all playing was stuff that was had a negative connotation more than anything else. If they were like more like what I was more inclined to, like with the track and field and the other thing you're talking about, the second one, well, for sure I would have been more interested and more involved, but most of the time you all is guns and blood and all that sort of stuff, so I'm not going to get involved in that.
And of course the other thing too that like I don't think I would have been able to articulate at the time, but I do understand now, is that like in the end, like it's just like a video game is just a medium, because movies do the same thing, any books do the same thing, there's like world famous stories through all these different methods of storytelling, be it in a book, in a comic, in a movie, all these things. And like these topics always pop up in those places too, so this is just another place to do the same thing, tell the same types of stories, or go another route with it, but in the end it's up to whoever chooses to make what they want to make, and you can't like so then you don't want to like basically paint with a broad brush, because the idea
but I figure if you're going to sit down and take your time, I mean, okay, there's times when you could say you could have some entertainment and you want to relax and stuff like that. But if you're going to do it, long term for years, and you're doing it every day or every other day, and it's the same kind of thing, to me, you might as well, allocate that time in a constructive way that would benefit you later on. That's how I see it. Because simply just doing it just for entertainment and for the pleasure, and then after that it's done, I mean, it's okay now and again, but consistently all the time, to me, that's time wasted. If it's not benefiting you, if it's not honing your skills in something, or if you're not learning, to get more familiar with something, or to hone your trade or whatever, then to me, it's just a waste of time.
What if you're doing it after a full day's work? You finish your 9 to 5. You come home, you play some games to take the edge off as a hobby.
I mean, yeah, okay.
It's a pastime interest.
But you don't have to do the same kind of thing every day.
You don't have to, certainly, but I mean, if someone likes to go fishing, if someone likes to, to sew, they'll sit in front of the TV and sew, and that'll be their hobby. And
well, at least if you're sewing, you're producing something.
Yeah, you might not sell it necessarily, but
but at least to me, it's constructive. It's okay. It's tangible.
Sure. Now, what if I told you that that kid that's playing that game every day then went on to win a tournament for $10,000 because the gaming skills he developed.
Oh, that's what you did?
Turned into... No, that's not what I did. But that's what kids are certainly doing.
Yeah, I know. I hear about it.
There's competitions and things are way more than that, like high money. Like there's millionaires.
Yeah.
You know. So the landscape changes once again.
Yes.
There's you never know when it's going to be something that,
I guess, you had to make a living, but
you know what, the like back in when I was doing testing at one of the first places, one of the slogans they had was your parents were wrong. Because turns out video games can be a job, right? That was the idea. Like, oh, why are you wasting your time doing these games? You're not going to amount to anything. Well, it's a living now. You know what I mean? And certainly, like, what I'm doing is not like a skill based thing. It's more of an entertaining thing. But like for some people that like are like they're doing it based on being very good at it. It's the same as a sport.
So how are they doing now? They're still prospering. They're still doing very well.
Massively successful. I mean, it's not dissimilar to someone who gets really good at a sport, right? If you spend your time, your free time, training in soccer, training in any sport, and or here, let's make it relevant. Cricket.
Mansfield hates that game. He hates that game.
Cricket's lame. It's super
hates
lame.
It with
the wicket and the tap.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, there's yeah. I remember when they used to back in Grenada. There was the pitch, the cricket pitch across the field, like this field full of goat poop. And then you putting these sticks. Like, anyway, whatever. Cricket. Bah. The point, though, is that if you're going to play a game regularly enough that you get very good at it, and then there's people that want to watch that game, right? There's an audience of people that are like, I want to see you get good at this.
Basketball.
Any basketball, right? Then when you get very competent after practicing for a long time, you find out that, oh, there's an opportunity to go to a tournament or to go sign up for a team or to go compete somewhere. And that competition has a prize, and then you win that prize, and before you know it, you're like, oh, I can do this professionally. And there's other people out there that are like, they like watching this sport, right? So then before you know it, you get a contract, you're signed, you're full-time, and now this is a career, right? That is kind of what happened with a lot of video games. A lot of games ended up being what you call esports, right?
What?
Esports.
Oh, esports. Oh, okay.
Yeah, electronic sports.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it functions the same way. There's teams, there's leagues, there's money, there's, sponsorships and all kinds of stuff. But it turned into a career for some people,
But you don't do the traveling thing anymore.
Not currently. But when I was traveling, I certainly was playing against people in like fighting games and stuff that were like professional players, and there's people that are there that are sponsored and they're living like, the lives of a pro essentially,
Oh, by the way, somebody, I gave him your email.
Okay. Yeah. Well, who's this person? Who? Someone I know or someone I don't know?
Yeah, you met him already at the wedding. It's Mansfield's grandson.
Okay, cool. No problem.
Yeah,
sure.
I
thought for a second you were saying, oh, you met some stranger and then you gave them my email. At which point
he was asking for your email.
Okay.
So
okay.
You would have met him at the wedding, but I'll have to go and show you him in a picture. I'll show you him in a picture.
And I mean, and that's, it's funny you mentioned that too, because it's like, there's a couple of the younger kids in our family too as well, like some of my nieces, nephews, and so on, that are like, I want to do YouTube when I grow older, right? They want that.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of
What's
the kids.
His name? Yeah,
a lot of kids want to do that now.
He wants to do that,
and they want to. And like I've talked to more than a couple of our family about.
And I said,
the possibilities.
Oh my goodness gracious, what happened to Korea? And, I guess it's where the money is.
You say there's no job fair back when you were around. Okay, so now you have job fairs, all right, to help people that are not sure. And now there's a new landscape of like, oh, this is something that they might want to do. So, this is something that anyway, it's become a common enough thing that like I've talked to a bunch of our family about it already.
Tell me about this new category of, I don't know how you want to call it, of people or
entertainers,
profession, influencers.
Oh, yeah, that's just the word. That's just the word that describes what all of us do. It's everything. But
really? I thought it was just specific people who promote something.
Yeah, it is. But like influencers. God. Okay. Well, unfortunate. It's become a label, and it is what I do. We are in fact.
Oh, so you are an influencer.
I am an influencer. Yes, this is the word.
Oh,
now.
really?
Yes, influencers is the word that describes anyone who is a popular personality on the internet.
And you have a following and stuff like that.
And that's it. So it doesn't have to be necessarily video games.
My son is an influencer.
It doesn't. Yeah, I know.
Oh my goodness.
No, that's the right sound. I know, it's horrifying. It's terrible. No. But
all right.
But yes, it is the concept of being an influencer is just the word that describes everyone who, because there's people on like Instagram who just take photos, right? Like there's people who they're influencers, people follow them, all they do is like travel and take like nice travel photos and stuff like that. Other people are influencers because they are they sing or they talk about politics or all sorts of topics.
But they make money because people follow them, and then you have people who put ads in their stuff.
Yes.
And so that's how they make their money from the commercials that pop up in their things.
Yeah, so you'll see like sponsored posts from some people sometimes, or in our case we get ads on the podcast, or but like,
so you have
we have ads as well.
Also.
Yeah, exactly. And that's generally the deal is anyone who is influential on the internet that has a following is an influencer, right? And it's a term that like exists because before you would just say like a Hollywood star,
right?
But that doesn't exist anymore. In like you don't have to be in Hollywood, and you're not necessarily a star. You're not in movies or on TV because those things barely exist in the shape they used to.
As Granny would say, well done, Tumblr.
What is that?
Well, it means...
literally, what is that?
Well done, Tumblr. Well, how should I say? It means, well, I've never seen or heard anything like this before.
Okay.
Okay. Like, well done, Tumblr. Yeah.
There's a French saying that is, I'm going to go to bed a little less stupid tonight. Right? That they say here.
Well,
but yes.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, that's what it is. It's because there's Hollywood stars doesn't mean anything. Hollywood, it doesn't matter anymore because you don't have to be from there. And you're not a star because you're not in TV or movies, but people still know who you are. And people follow whatever you do, and they're interested in what you're creating. So what are you exactly? Right?
It just amazes me how, all of these things have evolved in this way, to have people following you. Because you would never think that things would pick up and be so popular out there. But I guess I underestimate the power and the reach of technology and internet and all of that. And I'm never short of, it never fails to amaze me when you see and find out how far-reaching you have 1 million followers, 2 million followers, or 300,000, 500,000. I say, what? People, to be following people in this...
it has become a regular occurrence to hear about somebody for the first time and go, oh, who's that? I don't know who that is. And they go, oh yeah, check them out. This is popular person. And you look and you go and you see they have 3 million followers. And you're like, I have never heard of this person.
And then you start to follow them.
And well, not even that, but just like, I've never heard of this person, and they have more followers than the population of a small country. Like, they're, you know what I mean? Like the entirety of Grenada, for example, is doubled over multiple times. Will listen to something or follow, you know, and you're just be like, where was that? What, you know? But anyway, that was the internet changed everything. It changed everything. It changed the world.
Yeah.
It's created a parallel place for people to spend their time and essentially do whatever they're interested in, right? So what are people interested in? Well, a lot of people that are into the same things can meet each other. Thus, you can form larger groups from anywhere around the world, and you know, people who are growing up with the same tastes and habits and
the world really has become a global village with the internet. I mean, pretty much, you know.
All those it's like all that stuff I was, you know, enjoying. It turns out there's a whole lot of other people that were like me with that. And then when this internet came around, then they're like, oh hey, yeah, I like that stuff too, and then that's that, you know. But yeah, that's the catch-all term for it, is an influencer, you know. And I mean, obviously, like, this is also a world where, like, you know, you'll have in some cases, like, your entire, like, for example, you've heard of the Kardashians, right? Like, it's like they're a brand that doesn't necessarily have a particular output outside of, like, just a reality TV show, but that in and of itself, it still requires a new term to describe, like, what is it that, what are you doing? What is this thing? You know? So that's the word, is influencer.
But it just kind of,
you're going to hear it more often.
Make me kind of begin to wonder about people and their values and their privacy, because, you know, why you want to put out all your personal and private activities out there?
Well, we're having,
it's the same way, like how people, they cook something, click, and they put it on the internet, they put it on Facebook, where they're cooking food. I mean, give me a break. You mean you don't have more time to do something else, you know? You had to put out all of this stuff, you know? I
agree to an extent in that, like, I'm willing to put a certain amount of me out there. And then, of course, I feel like you got to have your own time and your own self. You can't just be doing everything it can't be everything of you all the time. Otherwise, it's too much. But, like, in select moments, for example, right now, this is just a normal conversation we're having. That is, you know, this could just be happening in the kitchen on any random weekend, you know. Right. But, like, it's like, okay, I figured let's just record this, and it's an interesting, unique slice of, you know, what like life is like, I guess, with us. But like, yeah, I don't. It's hard to describe in that it's just like there's times where I don't know. To me, especially since most of what I do is like funny and like entertainment based and stuff, like it's funny to just be like real about stuff in life, you know. But if you put too much of yourself out there, then you leave nothing for your own time,
that's
and then
dangerous,
and that's bad. Exactly,
that is very dangerous, you know.
So yeah, there's certainly the limits to it.
Become more vulnerable.
Yeah, so you do have to be careful with that. But I also do find that I'm like, for me, like some of the funniest parts of my life are, you know, like family stories and stuff with how I grew up and this weird, you know, like unusual upbringing I've had, and the role.
What's so unusual about it? It was the right way. What's so unusual about it? No, that was the right way. That was the best way.
Yeah, no, totally, for sure. Yeah, like.
What are you talking about? Listen, child.
Okay. I have had a very structured upbringing as a result of church to some degree. However, that effect has a lot of other lasting things that it does to your psyche and your overall attitude in life is one where you're probably going to be you're going to try to be a decent person. You're going to try to be nice to people. Those are all good habits to have and stuff. But, it also does other things that are not as good. An aspect of that is the part where once a week for my entire life, for the first 20 years of it, I went to a place on the weekends and I was given a whole lot of information and, I just had to process it however I did. And, whatever I kind of questioned about it wouldn't always get a satisfying answer. And then eventually at some point I was like, okay, well, I think I'm going to make up my mind on over here. But the I didn't exactly, anyway, I didn't have a say until I had a say, I suppose. It's fine because we're here now and it worked out and we're fine.
Yes, they say, you make children, but you don't make their mind.
Everyone's a person, is
but
determine.
As I said, people weren't born parents, and
you figure it out.
There is not a parent who could, in all honesty, say that they were the perfect parent.
No.
And stuff like that.
Of course. No.
So
it's not. When I say again, I'm saying. It's unusual because it literally is. First of all, most people don't even know when I say, oh yeah, Seventh-day Adventist, most people go like, what is that? I don't even know what you're talking about, And they have a million questions about what that is to begin with, which is like, wait, so you're going to church you're okay, you're like very religious family, sure, but you're going to church not every Sunday? What does that even mean, right? Like step one is already like unusual to begin with. So, you have that. And then, like I said, you have the idea of, one side Jamaican, one side Grenada, but then raised in Canada, but not just Canada, French Canada. It's a weird cross, and then half of that again is again you have that SDA layer over it, and it's it's unusual.
Wow, it's interesting you bring that up because wow. Oh my!
There are
goodness.
a lot of Venn diagrams. Yes. There are a lot of circles that overlap to make up what I am. That Grenada, are not
Jamaica,
very often
in Canada
seen.
And French Canada, and then the church and.
Like a lot of people came up from the Caribbean and went like, somewhere in the States, right? Went
Most
to New York or something.
States,
yeah. You chose to go to French Canada.
Well, my choice was to go to Toronto simply because our cousin was in Toronto. I didn't know anybody else that I could have gone to, and she was in Toronto. And so that was my best bet, because if I could have gotten through to do what I wanted to do at home, I probably would not have left Grenada. I tried to because I like MedLab, and I wanted to be a MedLab tech. But again, with the foolishness and the politics and the politricks at home.
After you lit your afro on fire?
Oh, well, I was here. Oh. That was here at Dawson. I applied to the hospital, the government, to get into the hospital to train as a lab tech. You do 2 years in Jamaica, and then your third year. No, you do 2 years in Grenada and 1 year in Jamaica, and you're a qualified med lab tech. But they didn't acknowledge me because my father was supporting the opposition party, supposedly, and all of that nonsense.
Oh, the big Grenada communist uprising?
No, that was before that. That was before that. The Morris Bishop thing, no, that was before that.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I just said, well, forget that. So I'm going to, because that's what I wanted to do. And so I applied to colleges in Toronto, and that's where I ended up. But again, because I was not successful in my first year, then, and it wasn't the right program that I wanted to. They accepted me, but it wasn't a program that I really wanted me. They accepted me into a organic chemistry program or something like that, and I didn't really want to do chemistry, so I had to switch, and so I ended up coming to Montreal, getting into Dawson here in the MedLab program, and that's what I wanted, you know. Originally, to be honest with you, you know, I'm a food person. I spend too much time in the kitchen, as you know. I really wanted to do dietetics. Food was always my thing. But when I wrote to McGill and I got the manual from them, well, not manual, what you call the, with all the program and the courses and everything, and I got that, and I saw the cost of what it would be. It was a 4-year degree program at McGill, and most of it you would have been in St. Anne de Bellevue over there. The cost was prohibitive because my parents couldn't afford to send me to college. I mean, it was just barely managing, and with the hope I could work part-time and, you know, go to school. And so when I saw that, I said, forget that. I can't do that. So then when I got to Toronto and finished that year, then I found out that in Montreal, at Dawson, but by the time I left Toronto, I had become a landed immigrant. It was so easy to become a landed immigrant back then. Very easy. You know, you just go in the post office, you take up a card on the counter, you fill it out, you send it in for to get a social insurance number. And some people used to do multiple social insurance numbers. I wanted to do it too. Seriously.
Just scam right off the bat?
Yeah. I picked up 2 cards, but my conscience wouldn't allow me because people used to go rent apartment or get phone by Bell, and they would, you know, rent it on a certain name, and then when they don't pay their rent or pay their bills,
they have another one.
And they just skip and gone somewhere else.
Wow.
The cards used to be stacked pile high on any post office. As a green card, like 4x6. And you just go pick up one, you fill it out, you send it in, and you get a social insurance card.
Well, maybe now we know why it's a little bit harder to get one.
Exactly.
Maybe you're describing the process.
One day, about a couple of years ago, I saw somebody, I don't know if it was the kid that was at my house or whatever, with a big fat brown envelope. And I said, where are you going with this big envelope? She said, oh, that's for my application. I said, what application? For social insurance number. I said, what? I said, let me see this. The thing was almost a good half-inch thick with documents and whatnot you had to fill out to get a social insurance card. I was like besides myself. I couldn't believe it. A little green card you go pick up in any post office. It was on the counter anyway. I think I even remember where I got mine from. Was on the post office right on Queen Mary and the carry back then. It's not there anymore, obviously. And I just went in there. I pick up one. And then I kind of went back and I pick up a second one. So I say yes, you know, because when you're a student, you know, you have to try and figure out stuff. And in case I get myself in a jam, I have a second card. That would help me out. But when I sent in the first one and I was tempted to send in the second one, and I said, I can't do this, Lord. I can't. I'll settle for one, and it's the one that I've always used.
Well, it becomes your lifetime identity, like document. So, I mean, then over time that has become like especially more important. What with people having the ability to like steal your identity and stuff, you know, and all they need sometimes is just that. So, yeah. That's wild. Okay.
Yeah, but I was like, what? You know, just the thing that they had to, that's what you have to go through now.
Yeah.
For social insurance.
You have to go through a lot of things now that used to be really
Peter
simple.
paying for Paul, clearly.
It is what it is. But, you know, like, I do appreciate the fact that I don't think I've heard you say at any point, I've never heard you use the term millennials with any sort of, you know, like of that, like that disdain that is a common thing, because a big thing on the internet now is boomers from the baby boomer generation kind of being like, oh, these young millennials are entitled and they're ruining everything because a lot of businesses are going under, like, Eastside Mario's or Applebee's is not getting as much business as it used to because no one's going out to eat for fancy dinners anymore, and all these like family institutions are going under, and it's like, yeah, because no one can afford to pay for anything fancy these days,
exactly,
but for the most, so there's a really hilarious like series of articles and stuff that pops up where it's just like, why the younger generation is ruining X. And then the answer is almost always like, because they can't afford it, you know? And then it's like, yeah, and then back in my day, it was really easy. All I had to do was do this, and you work for 2 years and then go buy a house, and it's a whole ridiculous thing.
It's different now, you know. I think young people now have a whole lot more challenges than I did, even though, I mean, leaving Grenada at 20, so I kind of I worked for 2 years after leaving school. But
Spoiled for choice, though.
Huh?
Spoiled for choice, though. No, I'm teasing. Anyway, no, it's different. It is different.
And I knew what I wanted to do, so okay, well, I know I'm going to have to work and whatever. But I had a goal in mind, and nothing was going to deter me. And I made sure that no matter what, I will pursue that and give myself a career. Because for me to come here, as you say, you know, a lot of kids, they're not sure what they want to do. But for me to come here and to just go take an ordinary job and just bounce, as we say, from pillar to post, I mean, it's you defeat your purpose, you know. In the West Indies, where, you know, opportunities are so much more limited, then I could understand where, okay, you just can't have to take what you can get. But here, where you have opportunity to go to school, you have an opportunity to work while you're going to school. If you do well, you get scholarships and all of that stuff. You know, the opportunities here are endless. So why not capitalize on it? You know, and for me, it was, and again, my daddy was a school teacher, principal, same thing with mommy, school teacher and vice principal. So it was all about education. And I mean, it wasn't just in my home, but I mean, as I said, all my friends, everybody knew what they wanted to do by the time they left high school. So even your choice of subjects that you wanted to study for what we back then was A-level Cambridge exams that was set in England, and we had to write. You knew which subjects, which area you wanted to do, if it's science or arts. So I was all about science. Obviously, Auntie Myrna, she was all about arts, you know. And so...
Yeah, I think, though, that, like, it's... Like, you see, so everything has changed, but it's not going to stop changing, right? It's going to continue to advance and go further and further and become even more unrecognizable as we go on. And
but something, hold on, back up a bit. You were saying something about the boomers and millennials.
Yeah.
That boomers are blaming millennials
yes.
for...
Boomers are blaming millennials for just about everything, really. Like, okay...
Why in the world? That don't make sense.
So because it's basically like it's a very long and complicated process, but the short version is that the baby boomer generation kind of annihilated the economy. And
in what way?
In terms of like housing, in terms of like...
You mean we bought up?
So, for example, like right now, like the price of the average house is like ridiculous compared to what it used to be like 10 years ago, much less 20, much less 30, right? The cost of a house was, you could get like, you know, for, I don't know, like sub 200K, right? You can get a decent starter home. Those homes are now all selling for, you're seeing some people are selling similar houses for closer to $1 million, you know what I mean? Shy of it.
You saw those 3 I sent you.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like you have that type of thing happening, right? And if we're talking just the housing market, of course, there was the crash in 2008, right? Which was a whole lot of like subprime mortgages were like.
I was wondering, sorry, what else should I bring for you? Should I bring you some ginger beer?
Sure.
Oh my God. I'm going to bring it for you this week.
But to just with that specific topic, so then what ends up happening now is a whole lot of people can't really afford to buy their first houses at the time frame that they would have been able to if this were like, 1980. Mm-hmm. But who is buying that house is like 2 or 3 really big companies that are buying out the houses, and now they're just planning to rent them to people.
That is exactly what I heard on the news last week.
So
now they were giving some percentages in terms of who is really driving the market, and it's what you call flippers. It's more flippers that are causing the prices to go up like that because they buy and sell. And that is where the problem lies.
Beforehand, you could have worked for a couple of years, even before being like locked into a full career, and you would have been able to afford your first starter home.
Right. Yes.
And then you get a basis so that you can start doing whatever you want to do, build a family or not, whatever you wanted to do. And at this point, that becomes further and further impossible.
Yeah.
And not to mention like again like the debts and things like that. But like with just the homes, for example, and then you see that ends up happening, and then like now since how those homes get bought out, they're essentially like the plan is they're talking about like having people rent those homes instead of being able to buy them. So you just are like basically like looking at having a generation of people that are like, well, I guess you're gonna be told that you should rent forever, and if you can't
sad.
Yeah, it's horrible, right? So but
that's just money you're throwing away.
And if you can never end up affording what it would take for you to get your own land and to have your own place, and you can't pay it off or anything.
That's why you had to go in the country. I tell you that already.
But ultimately, like that's one of the specifics of just like something that has happened from that the market has changed, and it has changed as a result of like the way the boomers treated that era, and like basically people growing up now are caught like carrying the load,
It's unfair. It's really unfair, for people bidding on houses now.
And that extends into a lot of other things as well, right? Like people will get into discussions about like Social Security and all these other things, and smarter people than me have like definitely broke down a lot of the ways in which people who are growing into adulthood now inherited a very difficult situation. And were just born and then handed the bag, So that perspective has created this kind of animosity. So then a lot of these articles pop up, and a lot of people that are like, I didn't do anything wrong. I just did what I grew up in. I did things my way. And, like I had enough willpower to make my whole life situation work. And that's the problem, is you kids don't have enough willpower. And it's like, well, no, there's so much more at stake that you don't understand. But that's where those articles about boomers and millennials kind of come from.
Okay. And another sad thing too. And it's all people my age, my generation, boomers, with climate change and what is going on with that.
Of course,
they're just passing the buck, and they're not doing anything about it, and they don't care that their children and grandchildren going to inherit a world and an atmosphere where they might have to wear gas masks all their life. It's very sad, because now after the warnings have been given 20, 30 years ago, and they're just pushing it under the carpet. No, it's a reality.
Yeah. No, of course. That stuff is... There's a whole...
And they still don't care.
When you see the cost of living and everything like that and such, like, change in the way it has, the major thing to note is that, okay, the cost of living goes up, houses get more expensive, life gets more expensive, everything gets more expensive, you have less opportunity, you have less purchasing power, etc. The amount of money people are getting paid for their jobs has gone up by nothing. So the proportion on all these ends has been very, very high spikes as we've come from, we're talking about market of the 80s until now, right? 40 years ago or so. And the amount that wages have gone up has been dirt.
I remember. Let me tell you something.
So like if that went up proportional to everything else, we would still be okay because people would at least be making enough to
afford,
respectively what it would have been at the time. But that hasn't happened. So
when we were looking to buy our first house, and that would have been in 1981. You know how much the houses were back then? We saw brand new houses, $39,000, $41,000.
That's insane.
That
fathom
is what,
as a concept, 5 digits.
Woolie and I, 39,000.
That is unbelievable to process. Well, so back to Grenada then.
For me? Eventually, at some point. I'm just, taking a look to see what's going on.
I have friends that have had very destructive upbringings. You know what I mean? I've had friends who've had, people who basically have had, like much more difficulty in adulthood as a result of like their childhoods being filled with all kinds of horrible events. And, we were not completely absent of bad events, but I do think that like, overall we're a group of good people, and that, the way that we approach things, and this is something that you have to attribute to, being Christian, is that probably
I was just going to say by the grace and mercy of God,
I can fully see how like moments of extreme anger and explosions and violence and things like that could have happened in way worse ways. But like, I feel like a lot of that, due to being, like the way that we are, like that stuff was good in the end and didn't go as bad as it could have been. Anyway, the way I was raised,
Mama was a driving force
for sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Yeah. But the way we were raised was just fine. It was just fine. It got us to where we are today, and everybody. I'm meandering about, I guess, in a way, but I'm like, at this age looking at it, I can see that everyone is just trying to figure it out as they go, right? Nobody's got a clear answer of what the best route is. And like when we were kids, when I was young, I'd look up and go like, oh, you know everything. You have the answers to all solutions. Everything is clearly already, everything is preset, and you know exactly the way this is going to go. So yeah, of course you knew. And that's how that's why we're here now, is because you already knew what was going on. It's like, no, you didn't know what was going on. You were in your mid-20s at a point going like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on. You just have to do things, roll with the punches, adapt, figure it out as you go along. And we're all kind of trying to do that. So
yeah, and you and your brother were very fortunate that, heaven smiled on you all at one point, and you were able to get some help in, to do stuff that you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely like a couple of places. Each place we moved to was fortunately an improvement over the last one. Like we're quite a ways from literally projects on Crevier, you know what I mean? Like just straight up, like some of those places that we were at initially were like rough, and it's I'm glad that like things were able to improve. And anyways, that's it. That's I don't know. There's no not awkward way to just roll out of a random conversation like this, but I appreciate you sitting down and talking, taking the time.
Well, I enjoy this, you know. I've always say, and just listening to you, I think I told you that recently, no?
You did.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I remember one of the, you know, earlier on in life, and, you know, you always made sense in a lot of what you say, you know, on a day-to-day basis. I remember that. And Nomiko always thought he kind of knew it all, kind of thing, you know. But you used to make a lot of sense, and I used to say, you know. But, I mean, Nomiko had, and the thing with Nomiko, he had reasons, too, to back up whatever he say, whatever he believe, and everything. So I thought myself, wow, Lord, I'm really fortunate, you know. These two children, they have a mind of their own, but both of them make sense, and they don't talk foolish. Their mind is not like it's out there. They're very rational, and, you know, like they have their head together and their thoughts together. So I thank you, Lord.
Well, thank you for that.
I thank you, Lord, for that.
I will correct you and say that I do talk foolish for a living.
Well,
currently,
that's a different story.
No, but thank you. I
remember when I began to really sit up and take note of you. I remember way back many years, I invited you and Sean and Johnny, and I can't remember who else, to come over for dinner or for roti or something like that. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And I heard you talking around the dinner table that day, and I was in shock. I said, Lord, you bless me with this child. Listen to what is coming out of his mouth. I said, oh my goodness, Lord, have mercy. I was just flabbergasted. I said, Lord, I felt kind of silly because I should have been more aware.
Well, you learn from what you're around.
But when since then until now, I hear you, and I'm like, I can't believe that I make this a child who is
thank you very much.
You know, and no less for Nomiko. And the thing about Nomiko, he thinks through things very carefully. And when he says, okay, Mom, I think you should do this, and I don't agree, it's like Daddy. When Daddy used to tell me, this is what I should do, and I go against it, I always regret it. And I notice the same thing with Nomiko. If I just ask his opinion about something here or there, and he suggests to me, okay, do this or that, and I don't do it, I always regret it, you know. So to be able to produce two amazing kids who have their head on their shoulder, who so wise, who can speak so, you know, and articulate so very well, have such an amazing command of the English language and all of that. I'm in awe and I'm humbled and I feel proud at the same time.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you know,
that's a very high
wish I had
praise.
I wish I just had recognized this much earlier on in life, but when you work in two jobs, all you're just trying to do is pay bills and put food on the table.
Of course.
So you don't really take the time, you know, to pay more attention.
We got here. What?
No.
What? Here, we'll take us out on this because my name's Woolie, but my name is also Darlington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I always give everyone the basic breakdown, and once they find out, it becomes a hilarious old thing. It becomes a bit almost immediately, but it's like I always give everyone the breakdown of how The whole family was calling me Darlington. That was supposed to be my name. That's what it was. And then Dad walked in with his finger in the air and then said, his name shall be Woolie Jr. And then that was it. And it just became Woolie Jr. and that was that. But I mean, and then family still calls me the other one, and now there's two and it's a whole thing. But like, do you have any take, or like, what is it? Just as simple as like, that's a cool sounding thing. I
always loved the name Darlington.
Okay.
And it so happened that back at home there was this guy who had the name, and he was your how should I say, everybody look up to him because he was your perfect student, the all-rounder student.
Oh, there was a person.
Yes, that was his name. That was his name, and he was a smart kid in school, and he played in all the different sports and was like a high achiever.
Okay.
High achiever academically, high achiever in sports.
I did not know this.
And also in everything, is like anything Darlington touch, it turned gold kind of thing back in Grenada, back in the day. So to have such an all-rounder, all-encompassing individual, all these amazing
there
qualities.
Was a prestige.
In him, and the name that I liked.
Okay.
The name, I liked it.
I see.
So I figured, yeah. So it was my hope that,
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't realize there was a prototype.
No, but it was more the name. The name I liked more so. I mean, yeah, you can put pressure on kids to for what your ideals. You have to let kids grow into their own thing. But the name for me, I wanted that name.
Unlocked. I didn't know that there was this person. Interesting. Okay.
No, I didn't.
No. I know what you mean by
he was older than me too, so I was in a younger age group. It wasn't anybody that I was in love with or anything. No. But it was not just that.
But it came from a prototype individual that was like with prestige to it. Okay, all right. Yeah. All right, that's a very anyway. In a lot of stories, they have things like that where like, oh, there's some character from the past whose name a new character inherits or something. But regardless. Interesting lore. Okay. Do you think I'm going to figure it out?
Oh, there's no question in my mind about that. Oh, you will. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, absolutely. Because you're very observant. And you take note of what's going on around you too, because it just boggles my mind how much you know and know about stuff, and the detail with which you know that it just always just kind of floors me when you can talk on any topic and with so much knowledge and information about stuff. I mean, I don't even have to think about your future and what's going to happen. Oh, yeah, you're going to figure it out a long time.
Can you take us out on a Grenadian saying?
Well, I will do that, but I have to do it in the Creole patois.
Please do. We've been waiting to hear this.
Si ou fait bon pour cau. Si ou fait mal pour cau. If you're Haitian from St. Lucia, you'll be able to understand what I just said. But I can translate. If you do good for yourself. If you do bad, you do bad for yourself. And when you really think about it, whatever you do now. Whatever you do today, tomorrow, it has consequences, repercussions, after effects. So it just makes sense that if you choose to do good and you do right, the right consequences will follow, and you're going to bring good to yourself and perhaps those around you. But if you make bad choices and poor choices all the time, and you decide to do that in your mind, and you think you're getting back on somebody, to get even with somebody, instead of just let some things go sometimes, or just do the right thing, you'll be surprised how much problems and sleepless nights you could save yourself. Si vous faites bon pour cau. Si vous faites mal pour cau.
I was half wondering if we were going to get something about crapo and school children, or whatever that saying is. But we went in a completely different direction. That's
well.
What was that one?
Okay, it was crapo smoke your pipe.
No. No, it was something is death for crapo.
Oh,
something.
What is joke for school children is death for crapo.
What's joke for school child is death for crapo.
Yeah. What is joke for school children is death for crapo. Because
it's no explanation needed.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.